Hi. Okay, great. Well, thanks, Lara. Thank you, Diana, and I'm really happy to be here and be a part of this. I think it's a really fun way of showing what we all learned and where we've all been since graduating. So I think this is a really cool idea, and I really hope that we carry on with doing this because I think this is really fun. I love barbecue and I love food in general. I could be tummy. But what I want to show you guys today is how to break down meats. Now, I learned how to do barbecue from working at some of the restaurants um, that I've worked at. One of them was Barrel and Ashes, and that one I learned from. I actually had to teach myself. It took me 30 days to learn how to smoke meats, and within that time, we opened a restaurant. We literally we had this awesome machine, and we just had to force ourselves to learn how to smoke meats. And from then on, that was back in 2015, and I just carried on with doing that. 2016, I started my business, Oak and Honey Barbecue, and we've been in business since then. And this whole coronavirus thing has really kind of put a damper on catering. So doing something like this is kind of fun to continue to show what I love to do. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I chose not to do smoking meats, which I was going to do, but I wanted to show you guys how to break down meats because I figured a lot of you guys have smokers using this time to buy your smokers to learn how to smoke meats. But breaking down meats can be a little intimidating. A pellet smoker, you just put it in the smoker and it does what it wants to do, and you wake up in the morning and the brisket's already done. This, what I want to show you guys today, is how to get to the point where you put it into the smoker. And one of the most intimidating things is a brisket, which is why I wanted to include that. And I think that's why a lot of you guys are here, is hopefully just to learn something new. And I hope I can do that for you guys. So if you guys have any questions at all, please let me, pass them along, and I will be more than happy to answer them for you guys at the end of all this. I do tend to speak fast, so I'm going to try my best to slow things down. I can break down a whole brisket in less than 2 minutes, so I got to slow that down too. So just bear with me, and I will show you guys some pro tips that I have, and we can hopefully learn something cool. So let's get started. What I'm going to start off with right now is a whole chicken. It's a 3-pound chicken. Excuse me. 3-pound chicken I got from Costco. I'm going to switch over to a different camera here. Excuse me. There we go. Okay, so I got 3-pound chicken here. You get a Costco. It's like $1 a pound now, so that's really cheap and affordable. You can break down as many of these as you want to. I remember back in 281, it took me 5 minutes to break these down, and now I can do it in less than 30 seconds. So here we go. Whole chicken, got the whole spine right here and everything. What we're going to do is we're going to take out the spine on this bad boy. We got the wing tips, which I really don't care to smoke because all it happens is it burns in the smoker. So first thing I do is take that off. You don't have to have a big old machete knife like I do. So we're just going to take that off. Here we go. And then I got the flappy parts here, which again is just one of those things that just gets burnt in the smoker. So I take that off too. All right. Now the trick with doing this, how I like to do things, is this. I like to take the spine out, so it's kind of spatchcocking it in a way. Spatchcock, you're just gonna cut it in half on the back and just splay it out, and then it cooks faster that way. What we're gonna do here is I'm going to take this and just insert my knife into the cavity. You got the spine right there, and along one side of the spine, see the knife comes out the other side to the neck. Push down, slide out. Again on the other side of the spine, out the neck, push down firmly. And if you did it right, all you have to do is just peel it back, and the spine's left over. So that's that. Now, if you want to spatchcock it, just basically doing that, and that's you're done. What I want to do is continue further, and we're going to separate the legs. And really, the chicken's going to tell you what to do. Excuse me. The chicken's going to tell you what to do. if you look at it, you got these leg portions here, which you can just, separate. Okay, so you got the legs. If you want to continue further, you're going to look at again, the chicken can tell you what to do. And you see you get this line here. That's where the joint is. So you bend it here and you see where the joint's going to be. It's going to be right above that line. So it's going to tell you what to do. You just kind of slice right through. Same thing with this one. Okay.
Hey Ray, where can we get a machete knife like yours?
Machete knife, you can actually get some restaurant supply stores. It's actually not that expensive. It's like $20. You can also get away with, I got my big old chef's knife here. Not in, so yeah, that's it's really not that expensive. I like it because it helps me to. You get this curve here, and you can actually push the knife through, as opposed to a chef's knife where it's more just kind of poking it in. So this allows me to carve like a brisket nicely, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. What I use this little curve for. You don't have to use a machete knife. I just prefer it. I've been doing this for about 6 years, and I find this to be very helpful. The little curve. So there's that. Okay, so we're gonna flip this over. You get the breastbone, which goes right down the middle here, and I'm just gonna take the tip of the knife and just kind of push down.
Really quickly, Ray, we got a question in the chat. When you cut the spine out, did you push on the breast or just use the knife to cut that out?
It's all. You're not gonna push anything. It's all just the knife. Okay. You're just gonna take the knife and just on like just picture this is the spine. My hand's the spine here, and you can take the knife and cut right along the side, each side like that.
Got it.
Now, if you do it like this, you're going to cut across the spine, which is not going to hurt anybody. It's just you're just going to get more bone that you really want. Also, the way I do it, you take it ends up taking the tail off, which you really don't want to eat the tail anyway because it's got a gland which it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Yeah, so don't throw the scraps away. That's another tip. It makes for great stock. Or roast this and you just chew on this. It's great for like just chewing on. Great. Okay, so that leaves me with 2 breasts. Okay, that's pretty much the chicken breakdown. It's one of the easiest things to do. I could do a whole case of this in like 3 minutes. So it's pretty easy. I remember, like I said, 281 took me 5 minutes just to get to this point. So there's this. Any questions as far as chicken goes? You want me to go further? Looking pretty good.
I think we're good to go.
Perfect. Okay. So that's the whole chicken breakdown. That's what I like to do as far as smoking chickens. If I want to go any further, I'm just going to take it and cut across the breast too. So now out of one chicken, I get 8 pieces out of one chicken. It's great for caterers like me where I can, nobody wants to eat a whole chicken breast. I mean, that's just too much to eat, honestly. So people tend to go with small pieces like this.
What's the benefit of leaving the wing attached to the breast?
It's just it looks really cool. Like I said, if as a caterer, I don't want to give them a piece of meat without the wing because it's all they get is just that. And a lot of these tips I'm telling you is because I'm a caterer. You don't have to leave it on there. If you want to carve it off too, it would be basically doing this. You're going to cut around the joint like that. Just pretty much that. So, and then you got, of course, the drumstick and the actual wing. Okay. All right. So that's the chicken breakdown. And out of all this, all I'm wasting, really, again, and I'm not gonna throw any of this away. I'm actually using it for stock. Is just the little wing tips and the little fat. Makes for great stock if you do a lot of these things. Take it, put it in a bag, freeze it, and that'll make for really great stock. Cook with it instead of using water. You want to cook some vegetables and you want to steam something, steam in stock. So here's that. Okay, so that was chicken. Get rid of this board real fast. I'm gonna switch over to my ribs.
All right, we got another question in the chat. If you were to smoke a chicken at home, would you do it whole or in pieces?
I would do it in pieces. Smoking chicken in pieces just allows you to cook faster and more evenly. You cook it whole, the bottom part is gonna burn, or the if you do it in pieces, also the bone allows you to have a separation from the heat to the actual meat. So I would do it in pieces, more manageable that way. So yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one. And also, have you ever smoked cheese?
I have smoked cheese actually. Yeah, you can do a cold smoke, um, which is basically you're going to smoke something at the lowest temperature on your smoker, whatever that temperature might be. In my smoker, I can get it down to I think 150. Um, get that on there, and then just kind of cut it off, and it'll continue to smolder, but you're not adding more heat. If you want to make it colder, you can actually add a pan of ice under it so that it doesn't smoke. I'm sorry, it doesn't cook. Another cheese that's great for smoking is halloumi. Halloumi does not melt. Does that help? Okay. So this is going to be our ribs. These are pork spare ribs. Pork spare ribs is going to be on if you imagine a pig, this is going to be along the back. The spine's, or I'm sorry, more the stomach. I'm sorry. The head's going to be over here, and the sternum's going to be right here. So on this rack of ribs, you're going to get actually the bone, which is this one right here, and that's the part that goes right across your chest on the pig. The baby back would be right over here, and I chose not to do baby back because there's no work that needs to happen on a baby back. The pork spare rib, you can do more things with it, and if you do catering like I do, or if you want to do rib tips, you get it off this whole piece like this. The rib tips is going to come off this little piece right over here. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to do one at a time. Okay, here we go. Okay, ribs. Okay. So with the ribs, you're going to get all these flappy pieces like this right over here. All that's going to do is burn in the smoker. Take it off or leave it on, totally up to you. I would take it off because like I said, all it does is dry out and burn in the smoker. Along with this little tiny bone that's just on the very end. It's like this big. The reason why I take this out and you want to take it out too is because when you put in the smoker, this whole thing shrinks. It's going to shrink by probably 25% of the weight, and that little bone's going to pop right out and probably even fall off. So I like to take that off and then put it in a stock. So I have a pork stock with it. So that's going to be that part there, little bone. I'm going to square it off. I'm going to show you guys how to do the St. Louis style. Okay, I'm going to take out that little bit right here. Okay, so there's that. You got this little flappy piece right here, and that is what separates the organs that are actually inside the pig from the rest of the body. And it's really simple. Just take it and just going to hold this up and carve it right off. That's it. Okay. Now, here's that breastbone I was telling you guys about. We're going to take that off. Right. Sometimes, if you're lucky, it'll just carve right out. There it goes, just like that. That's the bone. That part you can't even eat. No matter what, you can't eat the bone. Save that for stock. Now you're left with this little cartilage here, which is edible if you smoke it long enough. And I'm going to show you guys how to separate that. If you bend this back and forward, you're going to see the bone. Like this bone is only this long. I'm going to aim for the cartilage and the bone between. So, and square it off, just like that. That's your St. Louis rib right there. And these are your rib tips. So your St. Louis and your rib tips. If you smoke this, you can smoke this for a very long time. This only takes maybe 3 hours to smoke at 225 degrees. This one here is probably at 225 degrees. It'll probably smoke for about 6 hours. And what you want to do with this is when you smoke the rib tip, you got to break down that cartilage where you can actually eat it. If you try to eat it at the same time you put this in, it's just going to be just a soft, chewy bone. This part is gonna break down and become nice and tender. I actually personally I prefer eating this part than I do this. As much as I enjoy eating this, you're gonna get a lot more meat eating this, and you can eat the cartilage if you do it right. So if you ever see rib tips on the menu, that's what they're talking about. It's just scrap from St. Louis. Great way to maximize your profits per rack of ribs. And see how super meaty it is? I mean, that's just nothing but meat. That's just nothing but meat. This one, yeah, you get meat right here, great, but this is the best part, in my opinion. Now, if you do competitions, the ribs they want is actually going to be like these 3 ribs right over here. So I don't do competitions. I've done a couple. Don't care for them. That's just me. One thing you want to watch for too when you pick for ribs at Costco are something called shiners. Shiners are the part that when they butchered the pig and took the ribs off, they cut into the bone. I don't know if you can see that.
Ray, was the temperature 225?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
If you want to smoke something, I would go as low as 225 and as high as like 240 if you really want to push it. But ribs should take at 225 by 3.5 hours, and you're shooting for a temperature of 200 degrees after it's rested and good to go. And one of the ways you could tell after we could do a whole class on smoking too. We could talk all day about that. But just a tip: if you don't have a thermometer and you can't test the temperature of a rack of ribs in a smoker, take your fingers, your thumbs, and you're gonna put them right between 2 bones. Say it doesn't matter which set, and separate. Use your thumbs to pull them apart. And if they pull apart easily, simply, then it's ready to go. It's tender, nice and juicy and all that good stuff. So yeah, you'll see some guys pull the membrane off of the rack of ribs, which we can do. And all it is separating this here, the membrane, and you're gonna get a towel. I personally don't do this just because I like the snap. It's like taking a casing off a hot dog. I like the casing. Napkin. You're just gonna pull. And just continue on like this until the whole thing is completely gone, just like that. That's pretty much that. That's a rack of ribs. Sometimes you'll get a rack of ribs where it has they cut right through a bone right here. So there is a bone sticking out right here. I don't know if you can see that, but I also like to take this bone out too because there's no meat on it. It's just bone. It's gonna fall right out as soon as you're done smoking. See, there's no meat on it. That's gonna go right into the stock.
Do you save the membrane also for stock?
You could. There's really no nutritional value. It's all it does in life is to separate your organs from your body. You could, yeah, nothing wrong with it.
And then also, do you notice the difference in smoke flavor leaving or removing the membrane?
No, I don't notice any difference at all. The only difference you're going to get is the when you bite into it. Like I said, imagine eating a hot dog. If you took the lining of a hot dog and took it off, it's just going to be, solid meat. I like that snap. So that's in my opinion, that's why I like to leave it on there, and that's why I enjoy it more. Nothing wrong with taking it off. There's nothing wrong with leaving it on. It's just personal preference. Don't let anybody tell you different. So that's a rack of ribs. I'm gonna do another one just so you guys can see it again. And at Costco, I got this at Costco just the other day. It was like $2 a pound, and you get 2 racks of ribs. Again, here's that shiner I was telling you guys about. They cut right into the bone. And sometimes you get some see where they cut right into here too. It's hard to see that when you're at Costco looking for the right rack of ribs. Okay. So here we go. I'm gonna take out the edge again. Like I said, there's that bone. Great for stock. I'm gonna take off that meat. Okay, stock. And again, if I'm lucky, it'll be one pass with the bone, with the breastbone. The breastbone's gonna be right here. Just like that. You can smoke this and eat this like that. That's great. I just find more value in stock. Again, here's the bone right here, and then the cartilage for the rib tips. Let's find, pull. Now I got rib tips, and I got my rack. St. Louis style. If you left this on, it wouldn't be technically St. Louis style. It's just a spare ribs. That's the only difference. So there's that. Okay. Any questions on that?
No, not yet. I think we're good for the next.
I'm sorry?
I think we're good.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Let me just turn off my board real quick here. I got a bunch of meat, and we're gonna go on to brisket. Brisket's gonna take me a minute to show you guys. I'm gonna do as slow as I can. There's a lot to look for, and there's a lot to feel for. You want to be in tune with your fingers, because you want to get the fat on a brisket cut down to about 1/4 of an inch, at the very most.
In the chat, we got, is the flavor different with the St. Louis versus a regular, or is that just the way it's cut?
St. Louis in a regular spare rib, it has no flavor difference at all. It's going to be just how much meat and how much, yeah, literally just how much meat you're going to end up with. If you have a St. Louis rib, you're not going to get the rib tips on it. Spare ribs, you will. That's the only difference. So a lot of times they cut the rib tips off and serve you the St. Louis ribs, so that they can also sell you rib tips too as well. And they charge like another $10 for I think rib tips, which is really trash.
Someone also noted the curved knife.
Yeah.
Saying, do you find it easier using a curved knife versus a knife?
I do find it a lot easier. Yeah, I find it so much easier to use a curved knife. Again, this is my personal preference. I find it easier, especially when I'm going to show you how I break down a brisket. If you guys prefer, I can go with the chef's knife, because everybody has one, which I'll probably just do that instead. But with a curved knife like this one here, that little angle here allows me to push the knife. I can't push with a chef's knife. It doesn't have that curve. And when I mean push, like say for instance, this part right here is all fat, which I'm going to take off of the brisket. I can literally just kind of cut that right off. And it's with a twist like that, it's going to scoop the fat right out. You can't do that with a chef's knife. At least you can't do it safely. That's one reason why I like using this knife. You'll find a lot of barbecue guys with something like this. I've seen knives this long. This is a 10-inch machete. You can find it in any restaurant store. You can find it pretty much the same places you're going to find this.
Cool. And then lastly, before you get onto that brisket, what are some ingredients you use for stock?
For stock, okay. So what you want to do with the stock, your basic mirepoix, onions, carrot, celery, a lot of herbals. I like to use other things: bay leaf, thyme, oregano, anything that you think would taste good. Is gonna taste good in there. So long as you guys start with cold water. You never start stock with hot water. And you always want to start with start with don't like blast the heat, and don't try and boil everything, because that's just going to cause a big old mess. All the impurities are going to come out of it. So you want to be gentle with it. It shouldn't take very long. Some guys will do a stock and it'll take them 24 hours. I don't do it that long. Okay. All right. Is there anything else before I continue on? I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys have.
No, go ahead.
Cool. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go and do it with the chef's knife, because I know a lot of guys probably don't have this one, but we'll leave that there. Okay. So brisket. also known as a packer. You can get this at Costco. This is a prime grade. Prime grade is not important. I just got prime grade because it was cheaper than choice, which is odd. So here's a prime grade brisket. It's about 15 pounds to start. Once you carve off everything and you pull it out of the smoker, it'll probably be down to about 6 pounds, all said and done. So you go from 15 to 6 pounds. So one of the things I look for in a brisket is the back. Okay, I don't like to have too much of like fat right here, and this little piece right here, I don't like it way too big. I got the worst one they have because I want to be able to show you guys, you know, how to carve it in case you get a really bad looking one. I found some really nice ones, and it's not very good educational material. So this is again, this is a brisket. Sometimes you'll find on a brisket they'll have little pieces of fat stuck on it. Don't know why. So that's trash. Oh, the other thing about brisket too, whatever you carve off of the brisket, do not throw it away. This makes for excellent brisket fat rendering. Great to cook with. It's actually healthier than using a lot of the other fats. Tallow is what you can make out of it. And then you can throw that in the smoker. You put this in the brisket on the top shelf or the bottom shelf, and put the rendered fat into a metal pan. This is plastic. A metal pan, and let that render. You get a nice smoky brisket fat to come out of it. So that's a definite thing to learn. So okay, here we go. Okay, brisket. This is the bottom side. When it comes to a brisket, what a brisket is, it's a pectoral muscle of a cow. It's actually two muscles. You got one muscle here, and you got the other muscle that comes. It's actually on the other side. You can't really see it, but if you imagine it, if your hand is one muscle, in this case, it's going to be like this, upside down like this right now. So you got this muscle, and you got the other side like that. So that's what this looks like. This is called the point. This is called the flat. There we go. So yeah. Okay. Here we go. So first thing I ever do is take off this huge piece of fat right here. And what I do is just kind of carve it off. If you need to, start from here, draw kind of like a flat plane, like as if it was a laser kind of thing. You're just gonna cut it right off, just like that. Okay. And then there's a vein of fat that goes like right around here too. So I need to cut that out too. Because again, this is two muscles like this and like this. So the part that separates the two muscles is going to be fat. So you want to take off as much of that fat as you can. And you'll see some guys will continue to dig into here and actually lift this part up. I don't like to do that just because that fat's flavor. This part actually renders out real nice and it tastes actually really good. If you lift that on there, it's just going to be like a globule of fat. If you take it off, you're just robbing yourself. You're going to have dry brisket on both sides. I don't like to do that. You can actually take your finger too, jam it in here, and it'll start to separate too. Okay, so I'm carving out this muscle here. You don't have to make it too clean, so I'm trying to make this as less intimidating as possible. All this fat you see that's all right here, this is actually, it's going to melt away. You can actually eat it. You'll see a lot of these guys will cut and they'll just keep trimming it off. It's like it's gonna melt off anyway. And if anything, that's gonna help keep the juices in too as well, because you have all this little the membrane right here. That's gonna help kind of keep juices in too. It's not silver skin, in my opinion, where silver skin is one of those things that like it's hard to chew through. That's not this. Okay, and you'll see on this brisket here, there's a lot of this gray part here like this. You can cut that off too.
Ray, I think the people have spoken. They want the machete back.
Okay, I could do that. Perfect. Okay, machete. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna take off that gray part, and I'm gonna take off as little as possible, so you get nice fresh meat. Carve straight down. some more of that gray off here too as well. Okay, now on this brisket, you have this little piece here. It's super thin, and now all that's gonna do is burn. Just kind of trim that off. So you're gonna square off the brisket, as well as this little tiny point right here too. That's gonna burn, so just take it off. So now you're left with a nice flat piece. You see how much of that fat is left on there? We're gonna trim that down to about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, right? So also you'll see here too, there's a little bit of meat sitting here on this fat. You can take that off. If you leave it on there, great. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to make it more enjoyable, honestly. A lot of times with this little piece of meat here, it's connected. There's like a knot of some type of fibrous thing, and that's hard to chew through. So if you actually kind of carve that out, you're actually going to free the brisket up to relax. So just like that. Okay.
Also, where's a good place an ideal place to stick the thermometer before that question gets lost in the chat?
Perfect. I'm going to show you guys exactly where's a great place to do it. On a brisket, after you get done carving it, and if you have it in the smoker, the point, again, so the flat is this part here. The point is right here. So if you imagine this is the middle, the middle point here, I like to stick my thermometer right into the point. That's the thickest part, and that's the part that's the closest to the heat. So when you put in the smoker, don't put the lean part, the flat closest to the heat on the smoker, because that's going to dry. That's going to cook faster than this part here. So this will dry out before this will. There's a lot more fat in here than there is here. So what I would do is I would take my thermometer. I'm going to grab a thermometer. I'll show you guys where I would do it. Okay, so my thermometer. Okay, here's the point, flat. I'm going to take it. I'm going to just dig it right in there. It's not coming out the other side. It's not too far in. If anything, it's only that far in. Okay, so I would check it there. If you want to continue checking it even further, you can kind of put in the lean. Again, I'm not poking all the way through, but just to kind of get more of a an idea of where the temperature's at, I would poke it right in here. If you need to, poke it in 2 other spots. But when this comes up to temperature, this will be at temperature. Okay. Okay, so this part is going to have a lot of fat, and this is where the tricky part is. This takes time to learn. See all that fat that's sitting right in here? A lot of this is if you try to throw it in the smoker just like that, it'll render out, but you're going to end up with a lot of fat, and it's just going to be, not much of a good mouthfeel. Some people like it, great. I don't care for it. Again, I'd rather render it and get gold out of it. But what you want to do is grab your hands, and what I mean by be in touch with your hands is you're going to poke and touch the brisket. Okay. I know for a fact if I touch here, it's more solid than it is right here. It's more soft. It's a softer fat. Here is more firm. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to carve it off. Just trim it. And I don't like to have what some guys call windows. I don't know why they call it, why they think that's beneficial. All that does is allow juices to get out. And windows would be like something I don't know if you guys can see it here, but there's meat. There's the meat fibers right there. And all that's going to happen is juice are going to come out of it and cool. So I'm going to carve it, make it look as nice as possible. Keep it nice and flat, straight. So see, as you can see, and if you guys remember where we were at before, but remember it was like a big old thing of fat like that. I'm going to keep that's a nice even layer. That's where you want to be. Okay, so I'm going to touch it some more. It feels still firm right along here, so I'm going to trim that just a little bit. Okay, so it's nice and soft. And I still got all this fat right here too, so I'm going to start working on that now. Again, touch it. Use your fingers like radar. Find out how thick it is. You can trim it until it's nice and soft.
Okay, two things in the chat.
Uh-huh.
Brian said he learned from a culinary chef that the windows are cut into the fat layer to add your seasoning.
Yeah.
And then someone
Yeah.
also asked, "Are you saving all that fat for stock?"
Oh no, actually, I'm not gonna save it for stock. I'm gonna save it to render out, so I can get rendered fat out of it. After you render it, it's gonna reduce by, you'll probably get, it'll be half the size of this and be thick with fat, that you can strain out and reserve, and then use that and cook with, and it's gonna make your food taste 100 times better than it will without it. As far as seasoning, it's like the seasoning is gonna fill that spot right there, and that's about it. I mean, it's not gonna like spread. You know what I mean? It's like, and plus when you slice it, you're gonna slice it thin too, so all the seasoning is gonna be on top of it anyway. If you want to try and get seasoning inside of it, what I would do is do a dry brine, for probably at least 24 hours ahead of time. So if you're gonna smoke something tomorrow, get it carved, get it trimmed, and start seasoning it with salt and pepper is what I use. If you want to use some other rubs, more power to you. That's great. I like to stick to Texas style, which is just salt and pepper. But if you dry brine it, that salt's going to get in there. So I'm not worried about, the little windows getting in there. It looks mangled, in my opinion. But I mean, do what you want. This is, in my personal opinion, this is the right way to do it. Okay. So this is nice and soft now. Okay, here we go. So there's a little bit more fat sitting right on top of here. It should be nice and like aerodynamic, and kind of like if you threw it in the water, it should just like glide right into the water. Okay. That's all I think that's all the trimming I feel comfortable with taking off on the top here. As you can see, I didn't carve any windows into it. That is, they did that when it was at the packing house. I don't like doing, again, I don't like doing it. If you do, great, but I don't subscribe to that philosophy. If you want to add fat, flavor, brine it is my personal opinion. Okay, now all this part here, this is why I like using the machete. This is all fat that doesn't really, it renders, but it doesn't go away, and it's not good to eat. It's just this glob of fat. So we're gonna take that off, and that's pretty much the last of the brisket here. So this is why I like to use this. So I like to take this and push with my knife. Yeah, it's a really kind of weird fat. It's very webby. Um, Again, great for rendering, not for eating. And I'm not taking too much off, just enough so that I don't get a mouthful of fat when I slice into it. And that's pretty much how much I would do. I have this little piece of, this is the part of the top of the point, the second muscle. So again, if you imagine this, the bottom muscle, and this is like this. So this part here is a part of the top muscle. This is my favorite part of the brisket. This is great for burnt ends. Burnt ends are going to come from everything on the side of over here too. But there's so much like collagen and so much fat sitting right in here that it's just my personal favorite. Um, yeah, this is the money.
Ray, speaking of the fat, how can you tell which fats are on the meat are good to cook to be delicious, and which ones are the gross and unpleasant textured ones?
Um, so when you're gonna smoke this brisket, after you take it out of the smoker, you're gonna see it's like, well, I'm gonna use this one as an example. After you smoke it, it's gonna be kind of a translucent, and um, you'll know through experience that like when you bite into it, when you slice it, say for instance, you're gonna get the 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 two muscles like this. It's gonna be like nothing but fat in between here, and it's just, again, you're going to carve that out. It's not good to eat. That is, that by itself. I wouldn't leave too much fat on here, just because I mean it's just not a good mouthfeel. You can leave it on there, great. Me personally, I don't think it's what people really want to eat. They want to enjoy a balanced fat to meat ratio, and I think by doing this, trimming it down this thin here, you're going to get that. Because again, this is going to reduce, so it's going to be like an even layer.
And then someone said there's like a pound of fat left between the point and the flat. Do you really keep
Right.
that all, or is that reduced?
That yeah, there's like a if you separate here, so this all this fat here is going to continue on like this, and that's what they're talking about. Um, I don't like to carve that off because I think that dries off this. Because if I continue further, I would just continue taking this and separating it, and see all that does you get this piece here with no fat on it, and that's just going to dry out. And then what's going to also happen too is this part's going to curl up, so it'll just kind of curl up on its own.
Does it matter what side is up when you cook it?
See, so here's another one of those things where some barbecue guys, I cook it with sitting up like this. The heat come on my pellet smoker is going to come from over here. It's going to come this way, and it's going to cook this side first. I've tried doing it upside down, and some people swear by it. I don't see it. It's a personal preference thing. I don't like the way it looks because when you flip it over, it's all ribbed, and it just looks weird. When I do catering, nobody wants to see a funny looking brisket like that. They want to see something nice and pretty. And when you smoke all this, this is all gonna flatten out and smooth out. It's gonna be this really nice, shape to it. What a brisket's supposed to look like. That whole rib thing, it just, it kind of looks, in my personal opinion, a little funny. Some people swear by it that if you leave it like this, that all the juices are going to rest inside there, and the fat's going to keep it from falling out. Um, yeah, I mean, it's true. It just looks funny. Nothing wrong with doing it upside down. It's just my personal preference, leaving it like this, because that's what I do. Is I sell it. If you want to eat like that, then great. Also, when I do it like this, as the fat renders, it just kind of moistens, keeps this whole thing moist. Turn upside down, it all this fat's just gonna drip down into the smoker. So.
All right, we have about 10 minutes. But really quickly, someone asked if you remove the fat from in between the point and flat, do you separate the brisket into two pieces or you leave it whole? And then what do we have? It does matter on the type of smoker you own and where your heat source is coming from towards the brisket. I guess that was a comment. So, okay. Do you separate it?
I don't separate. You can. I know, like if you go to some of the like a Vietnamese restaurant, they usually use the flat part. You can smoke it just like that, where you separate the point from the flat. You can. Um, I don't think you get the full experience of a brisket, of a Texas style brisket. You'll end up with two muscles, and you can kind of see where this one muscle is going to be at. So you'll get a brisket that looks like that. This meat right here. Yeah, but I know, like, if you go to some of the markets, they'll sell you just this part here, and they charge a thing like $5 a pound, almost $6 a pound just by doing that. You can do it yourself and save some money by continuing. I can continue further if I want. Whereas I would just continue and keep trimming, and you save yourself a bunch of money. I paid $2.50 for this whole pound for this whole thing. As far as the kind of smoker and the where the heat comes from, I do believe that the quality of the smoker is a huge factor in smoking meats. I got a Yoder 640. I dropped, I think, $2,000 on that smoker. A Traeger you can get for about $700, $700, and the metal on that's thinner than the Yoder, so that's why I chose to spend that extra $1,500 on my smoker. So look for the thickness of the quality of the metal they use, because that helps to insulate the smoker. So yeah, did that answer any questions?
Yeah, I think so. We have a couple more questions in the chat, but I
Yeah,
want to let you finish with that brisket, unless you are done. And then we'll go into a
yeah,
Q&A for the last two
I'm all
questions.
done. So what I would do from here is, yeah, I'm literally done. I could have done the whole thing in about 2 minutes. Um, um, I would literally just take this, start seasoning it, and throw in the smoker just as is. If I want to brine it again, I would just throw it back in the fridge for another 24 hours at least. So yeah. So yeah, the brisket's done. Good to
Awesome.
go.
Okay, so we want to know if you have any smoker recommendations for home use. And
Uh,
then
like
Chef
brands?
Scott also wants to know what your food cost percentage is used to calculate your catering cost, catering retail cost.
So my food cost is like 30, like about 31% ish. Um, like the brisket, like I just showed you right now. If I were to sell your brisket, a 15-pound brisket like that, I would charge you about $32 a pound. Because you're gonna take that, you're gonna carve off all this meat here. Um, I would take my my food cost, multiply that, then also multiply that number by two, and by two is because it shrinks by half. So with a 15-pound brisket, you're going to end up ultimately with 6 pounds. So there's that. Just got.
Um,
I forgot what the other question was. Sorry.
um, Chef Scott,
Oh, the brand is smoker too.
yeah, the
Sorry.
recommendations for smokers, and then also if you can show us the thermometer thing.
Sure. So here's my thermometer. It's a quick read thermometer. Looks like crap now because I put it in raw meat. But it's a quick read thermometer, and I like this brand. It's like $20. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now for $18. Um, but it's a quick read one, so that when I flip over my smoker, I can jam it in there and know within about 3 seconds the temperature it's at, and then I can close it back up, so I'm not losing all that heat. If I were to use just a regular house one, it's going to take 6 seconds. All the heat's going to go away. As far as a smoker, I chose a the Yoder brand. Um, Again, because it's made in America for one thing. Second thing is the quality of steel they use is thicker gauge than it is than like the Traeger, which is a thinner brand, a thinner steel. Um, that's a huge factor because when you turn it on, all that heat's going to go somewhere, and that heat is going to be absorbed by that meat, the metal. That metal is going to radiate, and you're going to lose all that heat, which is why I like the Yoder. It saves you pellets because it's staying hotter longer, and it insulates better. But you're going to pay for it. Green Mountain is another great brand. I would take a Green Mountain over the Traeger. Relatively same price. I think it's just $100 difference. You get all the nice bells and whistles, and the quality of the metal is just a little thicker than the Traeger. Logan.
There we go.
There we go. That's
Okay,
better.
those are all pellet smokers.
Yes, pellet smokers. Yes. You can do an offset smoker. I have an offset smoker too. That one requires more work. You have to really know what you're doing and be honed in to what you're doing. Um, uh, you have to constantly have a fire going because you got to maintain a temperature. If you want to do 225, it always has to be at 225. It can fall below a couple of degrees, but you can't just take fresh wood, throw in there, and expect it to maintain that temperature without dropping a couple degrees or spiking even. So pellet smoker is super simple. You literally just turn it on and put your smoker in, your brisket in, or whatever you want, and go to sleep. And wake up the next day is ready to go. It's that easy.
And what's your favorite wood to smoke with? And also, have you ever purchased smoker stuff from Bass Pro Shop?
I've never purchased anything from Bass Pro Shop. I like that store a lot. I live very close to it. I just never have. Um, the woods I would use, I like using is red oak, as much red oak as I can, and I'll mix mesquite. That's the good thing also about pellet smokers is that with the pellet smokers you can mix. Uh, it's kind of like taking salt and pepper. Okay, you can have an even ratio of salt and pepper, If I want it more salty, I add more salt to it. So now it's heavier on salt and pepper. You can do the same thing with pellets. So if I want 50%, red oak and then 50% mesquite, it's going to be very smoky. It's going to be little harsh. I know a lot of guys use 100% mesquite, and that's just a really hard wood, and you get a really strong flavor out of it. I like to smooth it out with red oak. Good thing about red oak too is native to California, um, so that's one that's a really good thing for me too. That I try and stay Californian um, with what I do. Um, but
Cool. So we, the people have requested a smoking lesson class for the future. Also, do you do catering on site or mainly selling the whole smoked items?
so let's see. I do. I can smoke on site. I'd prefer not to, because if I have to smoke a brisket for 18 hours at your house, I don't want to do that honestly. I'm going to charge you for it, and I'll give you guys what I charge. I charge $75 an hour to do it, times 18. I'm just trying to price myself out of it. It's just something I don't want to do. I don't want to say no. I want you to say no. I'd rather just literally put in the smoker and go to sleep and then wake up and be ready to go. Um, and I'm sorry, what was the other question again?
Um, I think you talked about the catering thing. So, and then what do you think of, I'm butchering this, Kamados?
Uh,
Kamados. And then which cut would you recommend for an oven? I don't have any room in my place for a smoker. Hey, me too, me too.
you don't have room in your. I wouldn't smoke anything in your oven in the house. Um, um, I think I know what this the Komodo or I forget what it's called. It's like the green egg kind of thing. Um, you can. I've never really smoked out of those things. I know that if you do, you want to manage the heat, so you don't want to have heat coming directly under the meat because all you're gonna do is grill. So you want to have it offset. So you got to kind of arrange your heat source to where it's going to circulate and create that smoke and heat. I don't have firsthand experience with it because I don't have one of those things. I'm not much of a backyard smoker kind of guy. I'll fire it up and do it from there, but don't smoke out of your oven. You're going to set off every fire alarm in the house. Um, if you want to, if you have a grill outside, you can smoke in your grill outside. Don't use all the burners on your grill. If you have a six burner grill, put your ribs or your brisket even on say the first four, uh, not turned on, and create some type of divider. Get a sheet pan or something metal, something that's going to prevent direct heat from hitting it. That way, the heat goes around. You know, those last two burners. Have those going with some wood in a pan, and it creates circulation. But definitely not in the house.
Um, we got any tips for keeping the temperature control on a regular Weber using indirect grilling and soaked wood chips? What would you recommend?
Yeah. So the keeping temperature is all about just don't. If you're what's the adage? If you're looking, you're not cooking. So um, if you got to check the temperature on it, which of course you want to maintain temperature, figure out some type of you can get thermometers, like smoking thermometers, and you can actually bore a hole into whatever you're trying to do. I've bored a hole into my grill, the lifty part, and you just attach a thermometer. That way you can maintain temperature, the internal temperature of your grill. Um, the but yeah, I mean that's really the only thing you do is try and figure out how to maintain the heat away from what you're trying to do. Because if you don't, you're going to burn the bottom part. Because you're gonna put a brisket in for 18 hours, and if you have direct heat right under it, or even like super close to it, you're going to burn wherever that part is. So you got to kind of keep it away. That's why a smoker always has an offset offset area where you would shovel coal, you put in fresh logs of wood, so that the wood doesn't create a direct heat source uh, on your meats. So
All right, everybody. It is 7:03.
wow,
I don't
not
want
long.
to take up too much of everybody's time. Ray, if you have about 5-10 more minutes. This will be just kind of open in case anyone wants to hang out, chat, or anything. Ask Ray any questions.
Well, I was gonna say I'd be more than happy to do an actual smoking class. I would love to do something like that. I would actually love to do a whole pig breakdown. We can, do a whole get a whole pig and just kind of, I'll show you exactly how I do it. I've done those for food and wine festivals, where I got within minutes of, I took it out of smoking. I had like just minutes to get it onto the showroom floor and start serving right out of it. That one takes a lot of timing ahead of time. So knowing how to do something like that would be a lot of fun to to learn. Um, but yeah, I'm more than happy to be a part of this again. I hope I teach somebody something in this whole thing. If I didn't, I'm sorry, but please, you guys email me at oakenhoneybbq at gmail.com. You visit my website again, oakenhoneybbq, or Facebook or Instagram. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have. Email me, whatever. So